Hey everybody, it's Bridget Lynn Dolgoff. I'm just waking up. It's the morning and I'm pretty tired. I'm at the end of the herb class for this month. And there were just kind of a couple of videos that I wanted to do real quick just so that that I have them for my school project, and also just, things that I was thinking about. So I think, one of the biggest, so I'm going to talk about entitlement and maybe kind of some of the avenues that we don't think of as entitlement. I mean, the thing is like a lot of people get caught up on rights, right? Your rights, your right to food, your right to shelter, your right to electricity or power, your right to cut down the trees on your property, your right to carry a gun. And, more and more, I look at them as entitlements. I know that's going to really freak people out. And mind you, I think I'm kind of like, I don't know. I don't really know how to describe my politics, but I do believe in natural law. The law of nature, which I think for me is less defined and older than common law. And I think that it is probably similar to tribal law, like older tribal law. Back to, the wampum belts and how things were archived. But it's always interesting to me is that people will go through really bad times and they got to project their stuff onto people. And a lot of anger they project onto people. And, when I had my brain cancer after, a few years after going through the harsher period, I was really angry and I was pretty snappy. But I wasn't a martyr. And I didn't get stuck in victimization, where a lot of them I see happen. They take so long to be able to rebound. And it's because of this, closet entitlement. Like, where's mine? And, kind of an idea. So, yesterday I was thinking a lot about, we're not entitled to a place to live. We're not entitled to a country. Or we're not entitled to, air conditioning or heat. We're not entitled to cut down a forest. We're not entitled to dig up the oil. And I think that, our whole, I think it's good when, people can create a lifestyle where they have a roof over their head and, they have power and they have some of these things. I mean, for me, since 2006, it seems to have been a pretty great obstacle, but it hasn't deterred me. And I haven't stopped, like moving forward. Um, and and so I was thinking a lot about, like my van, and, I put it out there and asked for help for the transmission, and put it out on 2 different places like Frega and GoFundMe. And I had 2 friends that were like hostile. Not because of my post, but because people didn't help me. And they really felt like, if there's 8 billion people in this world, and they, everyone gave you, a penny, you'd have a lot of money. You'd be fairly rich. You could afford anything. But it doesn't work that way because of entitlements. And you can almost see, people's wheels turn in their head, like what makes them entitled to have a life, or to have those things, or to have it now, or it should be happening now, or, my whole life is gone and it fell apart. And, so today this morning, I was really just thinking a lot about, being around people that, noticing people that, have these estranged systems of belief that do not encapsulate reality, or, what the hell's going on this planet. And our relationships to all the things. I mean, at some point, some people have to not have houses. At some point, we have to come up with different kinds of concepts. Growing food indoors is not ideal. It takes us away from fixing the soil and taking care of nature. And, going through this Wildcrafting Herbal Medicine School program, it just really brings the focus back on the soil, the water, nature, what's growing in nature, what's edible, what's medicinal. I mean, I've always been kind of a cuckoo-doo about it all, but I think I'm moving into, the red zone, the red zone and the cuckoo-doo. And if we don't start taking care of it and developing ways that we can live, I hate the word community living. It always goes back to commune, and I just have like really horrible imagery. But, in ways where, it's minimalistic living, and it's living on nature, and the focus is nature. The focus is the water. The focus is the soil. Focus isn't me. Isn't what I'm wearing. Isn't if I'm hot or cold. We'll adapt or we won't. And we want to adapt the planet around us and what we think we're entitled. And, it's kind of, it's, something that's been, hereditarily imprinted and imposed. And a lot of, people have it, stuck in their DNA. And it's kind of a natural thing. It's a go-to that I don't think a lot of them are really questioning or really thinking about. And, baby boomers obviously, went in that direction, and then we're like, well, this isn't going to work, and it's too big of a fight. So, we'll just get big careers and make a bunch of money and create, more entitlement and, kids. I'm not saying there aren't people going out there and doing things, but the whole savior thing. Oh, I'm going to go to Africa and save the children, or I'm going to go here and live in a tree and save the environment, or I'm going to go down to South America and, save the turtles. Or, the thing is that we have to get out of the savior complex, because you know what? No one's coming to save us. And you have to save yourself. There are no guarantees. And you are ultimately responsible for how you think, how you feel, how you do things, how you react to things. And sometimes some of these things are just ingrained. And you have to, dig in and get to the root of it. My family, my house. I mean, those are I. Those are all like entitlement words. I mean, people are really going to, crop the golden britches when they find out that, that we were probably designed in a petri dish. I mean, that's going to shake people's entitlements clear off. I mean, that's just going to really go, it's going to rattle their whole, entitlements department. Because, they're supposed to be supreme beings, not laboratory specimens. Which is really going to change, the whole, it's really going to make them crazy and probably suicidal. And, and just complete wacko. When they realize they're not like the supreme thing of all things. They're not God. I mean, the thing is humans can't even get along. But you look at the forest, and, it may not be agreeable. There are plants that aren't really going to like to grow in the shade of trees or other plants, but they find their, right and perfect spot on their own, and they set roots, and they start growing. And they keep going. And then you know what? You don't see a tree complaining about the rain, that they're entitled to the rain. I mean, on some level, they probably are. I know the trees did go to the council a few years back and are wanting to leave this world. And they are. And on top of it, beings are chopping them down. Humans are chopping them down at a rapid rate worldwide as well. So, yeah. There was this really interesting story that really, really got me thinking. So, I think it was like up in Shasta area, and there's a whole bunch of land there and even camping area that the native people, I think there's like 2 or 3 tribes that kind of jointly, I don't know, not own or co-own. And I'm sure that they don't really kind of look at it that way, but they take care of, caretake. It's under their, responsibility. And I guess they had like the Rainbow Festival there. And I saw a video on it. And so they had all these, rainbow people who really think that they're spiritual, and they really think that they're, albeit, living with nature, communing with everything. And they kind of got schooled on the fact that they're not. So it was like a showdown, basically, because they couldn't understand. So the heads of the, rainbow people, I don't know how many people were there. They usually have pretty large encampments. But there are areas that the natives said that they were not allowed in, don't go in. And you have to realize, like, you have people in traditional ways that, go out and they talk to, the plants and everything else, and they check them and make sure that everything's go, because they have to be a steward. And I think it was like in the spring or something like that. And there's particular rules. I mean, it's probably not the right word, but I'm going to use that word. That these native people had, and like not to walk on the grass, right? Because the grass is just young and you don't want to harm it. You don't want to trample it. It's not strong enough to handle the footsteps and the foot traffic. And then they showed in the video, the native people, that you have these people that were like bathing in the creek. And this really, I mean, the grass was all, trampled down. And mind you, this wasn't in their sight. This was the area where the rainbow people were going. And I'm talking about rainbow people as kind of the granola people. I think they were like pre-Burning Man people. I don't know, something like that. Anyway, so finally the native people, went in there and looked and had it. Because I think that they're there like a week, and some of them get there earlier and some stay longer. And you can have up to like 20,000 people, I think, or something. Some outrageous, amount in these areas. And so basically what the native people did is they pulled their permit of ever coming back. And they tried for hours and hours and hours to explain to the head people, the Rainbow People's Council, and they couldn't get it because they felt entitled that the grass is to be walked on, and the creek is meant to be bathed in. And, all of these entitlement kind of concepts, which really collided with the natives' principles, about such things. And that, I saw that, like, I don't know, quite a few years ago. A friend of mine sent me the video of them trying to, come to the table and talk about some of the stuff, but the rainbow people just couldn't wrap their heads around that they were stuck in this entitlement. And they weren't really caring for the environment. Otherwise, they wouldn't have done the things that they had done to the environment. And the native people, this was their area of responsibility. And they just really wanted people to stay in the guidelines. And if you couldn't stay in the guidelines, then they were going to close it to you and you wouldn't be allowed to come back. So they did. So they revoked the rainbow people meeting there every year, and they were mad because, we've been coming here like 20 years and we've never been talked to like that. And the natives were like, well, that's the end of that. That's the end of that conversation. And, please don't, come back. And, we've spent the last 2 hours trying to work it out with you, try to express, our systems and our beliefs and how we are, co-creating and co-managing nature, and that's it. So, we think because there's some grass, we're allowed to lay on it. We go to nature, we think because there's plants, we're allowed to pick them. Like, I'm really struggling, I'm supposed to have, and it's probably not going to get fulfilled because I feel like if I go out and I collect plants, right now I'm just using plants that are cultivated for usage, and also plants that I've previously planted. And then I'm just going to have to really work with some medicine and, build up my communication skills with environment and herbal medicine, and plants in general, so that I'm in sync, because I don't want to be entitled. I don't want the plants. I don't want that energy in them and that I'm entitled to sell them. Um, I think it would just be easier just to, make the medicine and give it away. Because I think, there are still levels of entitlement in me. And the further I go down the rabbit hole, the more I have to give, right? The more is a giveaway. And so that I can break the rest of that entitlement system, so that I really can be, a steward for change and a steward for nature. And, yeah, there's just a lot to work with, had a lot of weird anger, but we'll talk about that. I had some weird anger last night in the middle of the night. And, but that'll be on the, flower essence medicine that we made in the forest yesterday in class. So it was super cool to wildcraft stuff in nature. Be in nature with nature. It was just awesome. My dog, she had the best time yesterday. It's all up her alley. A trail, a river with water, and all kinds of grass and plant medicines and lovely people. So she had a really great time yesterday. But I had to really, watch, my whole entitlement process, and I had to really, work on staying clear. And also yesterday was really working on, what my approach is going to be with plants. Obviously, I'm not going to be a taker, because, in my previous videos, we talked about how the deer and the bear, have cursed takers, and with rheumatism and pain. So anyway, that's all I have to say right now about entitlements. I got a couple other videos to do this morning, and then I've got some work that I have to do, and then I have to make the journey back. So just really grateful that I could use this car to make the trip. And yeah, so all right, everybody, over and out. Bridget Lynn Dolgoff, Conscious of Economics and Urban Farm Project. Bye.